It is about you, not the person beside you, not someone who accidentally clicked this message, not a stranger passing through the noise of the internet. You. Heaven has allowed this word to reach you because something connected to your name, your heart, your waiting, and your calling is being brought into the light. Stop scrolling. Sit with this. Breathe deeply and listen. Because one hidden thing that has been covered for years is beginning to break open. And it concerns you more directly than you realize. Hear me clearly, this is not a casual message. And this is not emotional entertainment. God is interrupting the ordinary rhythm of your day to tell you that what was whispered in secret is moving toward revelation. Someone spoke about you today. Someone who tried to bury what they felt. Someone who acted strong while carrying your memory like a weight in their chest. Someone who convinced themselves silence was safer than truth. But today, the silence cracked. Your name came out. Not as gossip, not as a passing thought, but as a confession they could no longer hold back. God is saying, I allowed your name to be spoken because the appointed hour has come. Do not dismiss the stirring in your spirit. Do not call it coincidence when your heart already knows this message has found the exact place that has been aching. There is a reason you have felt something shifting before you had evidence. There is a reason certain dreams, songs, memories, and sudden heaviness have been circling your life. The Lord has been preparing you for a moment when hidden things would no longer remain hidden. Let me tell you, you were not forgotten in the room where you were absent. You were not powerless because you were not there to explain yourself. God knows how to defend a name without the person being present. He knows how to make truth rise in conversations you never heard. And now He is calling you to pay attention, not with panic, but with holy awareness. This is bigger than romance. This is about recognition. This is about destiny. This is about the way God places certain people, certain words, and certain awakenings into your life to confirm what your soul has been carrying quietly. If this message is already touching something deep in you, write, Lord, I am listening, because before you understand why your name was spoken, you must understand why God reveals hidden things only at the appointed time. Remember Joseph. Before the palace knew his name, the pit knew his tears. Before Pharaoh called him forward, his own brothers had thrown him away, sold him, misjudged him, and tried to bury the dream God had placed inside him. For years, Joseph had no visible proof that the promise was still alive. He had only the memory of what God showed him and the pain of being hidden in places he never chose. Hear me clearly, being hidden does not mean being forgotten. Being delayed does not mean being denied. God was not absent when Joseph was in the pit, and God was not confused when Joseph was in the prison. Heaven was arranging what human eyes could not understand. Then, one day, in a room Joseph was not standing in, his name was mentioned. One conversation opened a door that years of suffering could not close. Someone remembered him. Someone spoke of his gift. Someone said there was a man who could interpret what others could not understand. And suddenly, the hidden man became the appointed man. Let me tell you, that is why this message matters. God can cause your name to rise in a place you were never invited into. He can make someone speak about your heart, your presence, your value, and your impact when you are not there to defend yourself. You may have thought they forgot you. You may have believed the silence meant the story was over. But God is saying, I have been working behind the veil. I have been moving through conversations you did not hear, through memories they could not shake, through conviction they could not escape. Joseph did not force the palace door open. He did not chase the people who betrayed him. He remained faithful in the hidden place until the appointed moment called him forward. This is important for you, because what is being revealed now is not only about someone missing you, it is about God proving that what He placed on your life cannot be erased by distance, delay, fear, or silence. C.S. Lewis often pointed toward the truth that God uses the unseen seasons to form the soul, not to waste it. The waiting that felt empty may have been shaping your discernment. The pain that felt unfair may have been deepening your capacity. The silence that felt like rejection may have been the very place where God taught you to stop begging for human confirmation and start standing in divine identity. Do you understand what this means? You were not buried. You were planted. You were not abandoned. You were being prepared. And if you have ever felt like Joseph, hidden, misunderstood, delayed, but still carrying something holy inside you, right, God has not forgotten me, because what happened in that quiet conversation was not random. It was the first sound of heaven moving behind the scenes. Picture it without forcing the details, because the Spirit does not need a stage to make a moment holy. It may have been a kitchen table with a half-finished cup of coffee. It may have been the front seat of a parked car while the evening sat heavy on the windshield. It may have been a quiet corner after a long day, when the usual distractions finally lost their power. They were not planning to confess anything. They were not rehearsing your name. They were trying to keep the conversation ordinary, safe, manageable, work, stress, sleep. The kind of words people use when they want to hide behind noise. But then the atmosphere changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for truth to press against the walls of their chest. Someone who knows them looked closer and asked the kind of question that does not sound dangerous until it lands. What is really going on with you? And for a moment, they had no answer that could protect them. Their face shifted. Their hands grew still. The mask they had been wearing became too heavy to hold. This is where you entered the room without entering the room. Not physically, but spiritually. Your name moved through the silence like a key turning in a locked door. They spoke it carefully at first, almost as if saying it too clearly would make everything real. Then the truth followed. They admitted you had not left their thoughts. They admitted your presence still reached places in them that other people could not touch. They admitted that what they tried to reduce to timing, attraction, or weakness had become something deeper, something that disturbed their peace because it demanded honesty. And listen, this is the part you must not miss. They were not describing an obsession. They were describing conviction. There is a difference. Obsession pulls a person into confusion, but conviction brings a person face to face with truth. God is saying, I allowed this moment because what they buried has begun to testify. They could no longer pretend that your impact was small. They could no longer call your absence normal. They could no longer act as though the space you left in their life was just another empty chair. Something in them knew that your name carried weight, not because you begged for importance, but because God placed something in you that cannot be easily forgotten. You have wondered whether your silence made you disappear. It did not. You have wondered whether stepping back erased what was real. It did not. Some seeds grow underground before anyone sees the evidence. Some prayers travel through rooms you never enter. Some truths wait until the person who ran from them is finally tired enough to stop lying. And in that quiet conversation, heaven did not shout. Heaven simply removed the covering. What came out of their mouth had been living in their heart longer than they wanted to admit. But what they said next is the part that changes the weight of this entire message. What they said was not simple. It was not the kind of sentence a person throws into the air and forgets by morning. They did not speak of you as a chapter they had closed, or a face that sometimes visits the edge of memory. No, the words came slower than that, heavier, as if every syllable had to pass through fear before it could become honest. They said being near you did something to them, not because you tried to impress them, not because you performed, pleaded, or chased. Your presence carried a quiet authority, and they felt it. You became a mirror before you ever became a comfort. That is why they ran. You reflected back the parts of them they had avoided for years, the unfinished healing, the guarded heart, the excuses dressed up as wisdom, the fear of being fully known. Let me tell you, some people do not flee because your love is weak. They flee because your light exposes the darkness they have learned to live with. You did not have to accuse them. You did not have to raise your voice. Something God placed inside you confronted the false version of themselves they were trying to maintain. And when a person has spent years surviving behind a mask, truth can feel like danger before it feels like freedom. God is saying, I used your presence to awaken what they tried to keep asleep. That is why they could be surrounded by easier people and still feel empty. Easier is not always holy. Comfortable is not always ordained. Some connections require nothing from the soul. And because they require nothing, they change nothing. But you carried a different weight. You made them feel the cost of living halfway. You made them remember the person they were supposed to become before fear trained them to settle. C is one. Lewis, in the spirit of his writings on love, reminds us that real love is never merely a soft emotion. It is a force that reshapes the person who receives it. And that is what frightened them. Your love did not flatter their hiding place. Your presence did not bless their avoidance. It called them upward. It made them aware that if they came close to you, they could not keep lying to themselves. Hear me clearly, this does not mean you are responsible for fixing them. You are not their savior. Christ alone carries that throne. But God can place someone in another person's life as a witness, a signpost, a holy interruption. You became that interruption. You became the evidence that there was more life available than the small, guarded version they had accepted. And now, in that conversation, they finally admitted it. They did not simply miss you. They recognized what your presence revealed. They saw that you were not sent to entertain their emotions, but to awaken their honesty. And that is why the very thing you thought made you too intense may be the exact mark heaven placed on you. They remembered the part of you that you tried to hide. That is what makes this so holy. Not the polished part. Not the version of you that knows how to smile when your heart is tired. Not the version that answers, "I'm fine," while carrying storms no one has asked about. They remembered the deeper place, the tenderness, the way you feel things before you can explain them, the way your spirit notices shifts in a room, changes in a voice, silence that carries meaning. You called it weakness because the world taught you to admire hardness. But God never called your tenderness a defect. God is saying, do not despise the heart I kept soft in a world that tried to make it stone. You thought you were too sensitive. Heaven calls it discernment. You thought you loved too deeply. Heaven calls it capacity. You thought your loyalty made you foolish. Heaven calls it evidence that bitterness did not win. And this is what they could not forget. They could not forget how you listened without rushing to fill the silence. They could not forget the way your presence made heavy moments feel survivable. They could not forget that you saw through the performance and still did not shame them. There are people who only notice beauty when it is loud, but they noticed the quiet oil on your life. The kind that does not announce itself. The kind that rests on a person who has cried in private and still chooses kindness in public. Hear me clearly. The part of you that has been wounded is not the part God is throwing away. It may be the very place where compassion was formed. See, Zoe. Lewis wrote in The Problem of Pain. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. Your pain did not make you less valuable. It became a place where God's voice trained you to recognize what others miss. That is why you cannot always live shallow. That is why empty conversations drain you. That is why false affection never satisfies you for long. You were made for something deeper than being chosen by someone who only wants the convenient parts of you. Let me tell you, the one who spoke about you today remembered what convenience could never produce. They remembered your depth. They remembered your sincerity. They remembered the strange peace that came when you were near, even if they were too afraid to admit it then. And now, God is bringing that memory back with weight, not to make you chase, not to make you beg, not to pull you back into anxiety, but to confirm that what He placed in you has been seen, even when you felt invisible. You do not need to shrink to be loved correctly. You do not need to become colder to be respected. You do not need to apologize for carrying a heart that still believes, still hopes, still prays, still waits without turning cruel. The Lord is not asking you to become less. He is teaching you to become whole, and the part they could not forget is the part heaven is now healing in you. But there is another layer, because this was never only about what they felt, it was about what God was preparing. Do not reduce this to a love story. Do not make the mistake of thinking God is only dealing with their feelings while leaving your soul untouched. This is bigger than a person missing you. This is bigger than a message, a confession, a return, or a door beginning to open. God is preparing you. He is not only moving in the heart of the one who spoke your name, He is establishing something deeper in you, something steadier, something that will not collapse the moment emotions rise again. Hear me clearly. Restoration without preparation can become another cycle of pain. A door can open, but if the heart walking through it has not been healed, the same wound will repeat itself under a different season. That is why God has been slowing you down, teaching you to pray before reacting, teaching you to listen before reaching, teaching you to stop confusing anxiety with discernment. He is calling you higher than the version of you that waited by the phone, replayed old conversations, and wondered what you could have done differently. That version of you survived, but it cannot lead your next season. God is saying, I am not only changing their heart, I am strengthening yours. You are being trained to receive without begging, to love without losing yourself, to stay open without becoming unguarded, to forgive without surrendering wisdom. This is holy preparation. This is the kind of work heaven does before visible restoration appears. Because if they come back with words, you must have discernment. If they come back with tears, you must have peace. If they come back with regret, you must not hand them your entire future without watching the fruit. God does not want you desperate. He wants you rooted. He does not want you chasing confirmation from a human voice when He has already spoken identity over you. Let me tell you, when God prepares a chosen person, He often removes the addiction to being chosen by people. He teaches you that your worth was never waiting inside someone else's apology. Your calling was never paused because someone could not recognize it. Your future was never held hostage by another person's fear. The Lord has been building a stronger yes inside you. A yes to His will, His timing, His protection, His peace. And if this connection is truly being restored by God, it will not require you to abandon the very wisdom He gave you in the wilderness. C.S. Lewis, in the spirit of mere Christianity, often points us back to the truth that God is not interested in merely making us comfortable. He is making us new. That is what is happening here. You are not being returned to the old version of the story. You are being prepared for a redeemed version, a cleaner version, a version where love does not ask you to betray your spirit. So ask yourself, are you willing to let God prepare your heart before He opens the door fully? Are you willing to be made steady before the answer arrives? If you are ready, write, Lord, prepare my heart before you open the door. Because the next thing God is exposing is not only their confession, it is the reason they were silent for so long. They did not run because you were worthless. They ran because truth demanded more from them than comfort ever did. Understand this with a calm spirit. Their silence was not proof that you imagined everything, and their distance was not evidence that your presence meant nothing. Sometimes a person steps away from the very thing that exposes the place where they still feel unworthy. They can laugh with others, answer messages, keep working, keep moving, keep pretending life is normal. But when your name rises in their heart, something in them trembles because you represent a level of honesty they were not ready to carry. Let me warn you, do not confuse someone's fear with God's final answer. Fear can delay obedience. Fear can make a person choose silence when truth is calling. Fear can convince them that staying hidden is safer than stepping forward and risking rejection. But fear is not Lord. Fear is not covenant. Fear is not stronger than the hand of God when He decides to confront what has been buried. They were afraid they would not be enough for you, afraid that if they came close, you would see the unfinished places, the immaturity, the wounds they never named, the weakness behind the image they worked so hard to maintain. They were afraid your depth would require their depth. They were afraid your sincerity would expose their half-heartedness. They were afraid that loving you correctly would mean growing up, apologizing, becoming consistent, and no longer hiding behind excuses that once sounded reasonable. Hear me clearly, this does not excuse the pain their silence caused. God is not asking you to romanticize confusion or call inconsistency love. He is not asking you to open the door to disorder just because someone finally feels regret, but He is giving you understanding. So bitterness does not become your prison. There is a difference between discernment and resentment. Discernment protects your peace. Resentment poisons it. God is saying, I am dealing with what they could not face, and I am guarding what I have healed in you. That is why you must not chase. If the Lord is convicting them, let Him finish the work. You cannot become the Holy Spirit in someone else's life. You cannot force maturity into a heart that has not surrendered. You cannot drag someone into truth and then call it restoration. What God restores, He also purifies. What God sends back, He teaches to stand in humility. C. is Lewis, especially in the spirit of mere Christianity, reminds us that pride bends the soul inward until it cannot receive love rightly. That was part of their war. Not only fear, but pride. Not only hesitation, but the need to stay in control. Yet today, something in that control began to break. They realized the distance was not destiny rejecting you, it was their own fear standing in the doorway. And when God begins to deal with fear, signs begin to appear. Not to entertain you, but to awaken you. The signs were not random, but they were never meant to become your God. Hear that with wisdom. Heaven can whisper through a song, a scripture, a sudden memory, a name appearing when you are trying not to think about it. But the sign is not the shepherd. The sign only points. God leads. And if you have been seeing patterns, feeling sudden heaviness, waking in the night with someone on your spirit, or sensing that something is shifting before anyone explains it, do not rush into panic and do not run into fantasy. Bring it before the Lord. Ask for peace. Ask for clarity. Ask for the kind of confirmation that does not feed anxiety but strengthens obedience. God is saying, I have been guiding you even when you thought you were walking through silence. That is why certain moments felt too precise to ignore. A verse appeared at the exact time your heart was tired. A song carried words you had not spoken aloud. A memory returned with unusual weight. You felt a pull to pray. Not because you were weak, but because the Spirit was teaching you to intercede instead of spiral. Let me tell you, the enemy loves confusion, but God gives peace that can stand in the middle of unanswered questions. So do not worship the pattern. Do not build your faith on numbers, dreams, or coincidences alone. Build it on Christ. Build it on the Word. Build it on the fruit of what God is doing. Still, do not ignore the way heaven has been gently waking you. The one who spoke about you has been experiencing reminders too. They have tried to move through ordinary days, but ordinary things keep carrying your echo. A place, a phrase, a quiet hour. Something keeps pressing truth against their guarded heart, not to torment them, but to lead them out of denial. This is how God sometimes works, not by shouting, but by surrounding a person with enough holy reminders that running becomes more exhausting than surrender. And you, on your side of the story, have been learning the same lesson in a different way. You are learning that not every stirring requires immediate action. Some stirrings require prayer. Some require stillness. Some require you to wait until God brings what is hidden into the open without you forcing the door. Have you been receiving quiet confirmations that you could not fully explain? Have you sensed that the silence was not empty, only covered? If this speaks to you, command, Lord, help me hear your voice above the noise, because the greatest confirmation is not a number, a dream, or a song. It is the peace of God returning to the place where fear used to sit. And when that peace comes, you will know heaven is not only revealing what they feel, heaven is restoring what fear tried to steal from you. You are not waiting from lack anymore. That season is ending. The version of you that sat in uncertainty, measuring your worth by someone else's silence, is being healed by the hand of God. You are no longer standing outside a closed door, wondering if you are valuable enough to be invited in. You are standing with heaven behind you, learning that your identity was never locked inside another person's response. Hear me clearly, You can desire restoration without becoming desperate for it. You can still care without surrendering your peace. You can still hope without returning to the old place where every delay felt like rejection. God is saying, I am teaching you how to wait as one who is loved, not as one who has been abandoned. That changes everything, because when you wait from lack, you reach, you overthink, you replay, you search for signs because fear is hungry for proof. But when you wait from wholeness, you pray, you breathe, you observe, you let God reveal what is real without forcing your hands into what only His timing can open. This is the shift happening in you. You are moving from anxious to anchored, from chasing to receiving, from wounded to wise, from needing to be chosen to remembering that Christ already called you His own. Let me tell you, this is not a small transformation. This is the kind of inner healing that changes how you walk into every relationship, every conversation, every open door. The one who spoke about you may be coming closer, but God is making sure you do not abandon yourself when they arrive. He is making sure your heart is soft, but not unprotected, forgiving, but not foolish, open, but not empty, loving, but no longer willing to confuse inconsistency with destiny. You are not the same person who once begged silently for clarity. You are becoming someone who can receive love without worshipping it. Someone who can listen to an apology without being controlled by it. Someone who can recognize movement without losing discernment. And this is why the waiting had to teach you something. It was not punishment. It was preparation. The silence did not destroy you. It revealed where God wanted to strengthen you. The delay did not erase the promise. It purified the place where fear had been speaking too loudly. And now comes the word that may be the hardest to receive, but the most necessary for your next season. Do not chase the door. Let God open it. If the Lord is truly moving, you will not have to break your own peace to prove that something is happening. You will not have to force a conversation, to manipulate a response, or keep touching what God told you to place in His hands. Hear me clearly, what God sends will not require you to abandon your discernment. What God restores will not demand that you become frantic, fearful, or spiritually exhausted. If He is speaking to their heart, let Him speak. If He is convicting them, let Him finish the work. If He is arranging the moment, do not rush ahead and call your anxiety obedience. God is saying, stand still, not because nothing is happening, but because I am moving where you cannot see. That is difficult when your heart wants proof. It is difficult when silence has trained you to reach for control. But faith is not control wearing religious language. Faith is surrender with open eyes. Faith is praying instead of panicking. Faith is refusing to trade long-term peace for a temporary reply. Let me warn you, not every open door is God's door, and not every emotional return is restoration. Some people come back because they are lonely. Some come back because guilt finally became uncomfortable. Some come back because they miss the comfort you gave, but not the responsibility love requires. That is why you must let God open the door and let fruit confirm the movement. Do not be moved by words alone. Watch consistency. Watch humility. Watch whether peace increases or confusion multiplies. Watch whether their presence draws you closer to God or pulls you back into fear. See. So, Lewis often showed through his writings that real faith is not the absence of trembling feelings, but the decision to cling to truth when feelings rise and fall. So cling to truth now. You are loved by God before you are answered by a person. You are held by Christ before anyone reaches for your hand. You are not waiting as someone powerless. You are waiting as someone protected. If the door is ordained, it will open without you destroying yourself at the handle. If the conversation is appointed, it will come with clarity. If the restoration is holy, it will not require you to become less wise than the wilderness made you. So pray, stay steady, keep your heart clean, keep your standards surrendered to God, and if you can stand still here, you will be ready for what God is about to reveal next. The confession is coming with responsibility. Do not forget that. When something hidden finally